Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube and on all the podcast channels. Thank you to the 7 Points Podcast. I'm your co-host, Warren Trent, with my buddy, my sidekick here, Sergeant Kameron Lee, and we have a very special guest.
Yeah, we want to welcome Lieutenant Colonel Jason Leonard, who is the Assistant Director over the Criminal Investigations Division.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we want to know everything that we can about the division and educate not only our employees but also the public about some of the things that we're doing. Obviously, Highway Patrol is our uniformed division, and people see us on the side of the road. They see our cars, but there's so much background work that goes behind the scenes and other things that aren't seen necessarily by the public that's done by your division. But before we do that, Colonel, we would just want to get to know you a little bit better, let the folks know who you are. Maybe if you could talk a little bit about yourself, and then we can move on. Where you grew up, your family, whatever you're willing to share with us.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've been pretty strongly connected to Arizona since I was a kid. I grew up in Texas until, I was in middle school, basically, and then we moved to Arizona. So I've kind of lived all along the border. And then, when I came to, or when I graduated high school, I went to Douglas High School and graduated from there. I went to NAU and hit a point where I wanted to do something different. And I came to DPS. I didn't have my degree or anything at the time, my college degree, but the opportunities that I have at DPS with our tuition reimbursement program and support from our chain and everything, I eventually got a bachelor's degree, and then I went on to get a master's degree after that. And so it's been really fulfilling being able to get those done while working here. But I started out, like everyone else, as a 91, I started with the state of Arizona in 91 with ADOT, and then I came to DPS in 99 and started up in Page for my first duty assignment. Went to Gray Mountain, both of those being very close to the Navajo Nation. I was a sworn Navajo Nation law enforcement officer at the same time. I had dual certification there. And eventually I went to Camp Verde and then promoted to sergeant in Kingman. And then just the pure amount of things that I've been able to do here, kind of, as I look back now, kind of blows my mind over the last 26 years. And I went to the firearms training unit as the sergeant, and then I was in SWAT at the time, part-time SWAT team member, and then I became the SWAT commander as a captain. And then I promoted later on to major over the investigations bureau, and now to have been promoted to lieutenant colonel over the criminal investigations division is amazing to me, because I love where I'm at. I love the mission that we have. And like you said earlier, you have the Highway Patrol is the visible part of the agency, and the criminal investigations division is kind of, off to the side somewhere, and a lot of people don't know about it. But the work that our detectives are doing around the state is incredible.
Yeah, and we want to get into that a little bit more, because I think, as I understand it, some of the things that we are doing as an agency on the investigative side is really at the forefront of investigations across the country. Like, we're seen as a leader in a lot of areas in the things that we're doing. But when you mentioned Page and Gray Mountain and the Navajo Nation, that is such an interesting place to work. And I grew up in northeastern Arizona, so I'm familiar with the Navajo Nation. And man, keep hitting that mic. I do it almost every time.
Oh, that's okay. Don't worry about it. It won't hurt you.
Yeah. But there's oftentimes it is just you for not only the highways, but that whole area of the Navajo Nation. And so you are legitimately out there by yourself.
Yeah, I very much so. And, I was involved with an altercation with two suspects one time that took, I think it was 35 minutes before the next police vehicle showed up on scene. And obviously the incident was over by then. But you're very much on your own out there, and it makes it really important for you to know not only your community, but have relationships with other agencies. We worked very closely with the Navajo Nation Police Department. We the community was great up there, very supportive, and all those things kind of help you, navigate that, that feeling of solitude where you're out there on your own a lot. But it was a great experience. I loved the opportunity to spend time up there, and I learned a lot about the state of Arizona and different cultures around the state.
The culture is amazing.
Yeah.
The Navajo culture is amazing, as are some of the other tribes and cultures that we have here. But I really love the Navajo culture. In some of the parades and stuff we would do in our hometown, we always had their dancers, and I always thought it was the coolest thing. But going back to that incident where you had to take care of it by yourself for 35 minutes, that goes back to the training that we get starting at the academy, because our training is generally much longer than most other law enforcement agencies for that reason. The weapons that we get and the training that we get is so that we can have more or a better chance of dealing with something all by ourselves.
Yeah. And, it's also a reminder, at the time, I was probably in my late 20s or something, or somewhere in my 20s. And, but it just reminds you of the need to stay physically fit so that you, that physical fitness factor lets you stay in a position where you don't have to use as much force, because you're not exhausted as much. You can control a situation a little bit better. And, that whole scenario probably only lasted 5-6 minutes. That's a long time to be.
That's a long time
in a fight, and it just, the fact that someone arrived so much later, they weren't code 3 that whole time, but still, it just shows how far out you are by yourself there. And that really means that, you need to be prepared to handle things like that by yourself, and physical fitness, a lot of our support programs, like our employee wellness, things like that, help support your overall health and keep you in a position where you can handle that without having to, elevate any levels of force.
Yeah.
Your varied experiences in law enforcement, I mean, do you feel how that has really shaped you to become the leader that you are within the agency?
Oh, yeah. I think, for one thing, when I started with the agency, I didn't really plan on promoting. A lot of people have a career plan, and I think doing that is better. I think if you have a plan and you take steps toward your plan, you're going to tend to have more success. But I was never that way. I liked being a trooper. There came a point in my career where I felt like I was ready to take the next step and become a sergeant, and I did that. And that trend has just kind of continued. I never, in my wildest dreams earlier in my career, would have thought I'd be sitting where I am right now. It's kind of amazing to me now, but it's just, every time an opportunity has come up, I've tried to take it. I went to the presidential inauguration for President Obama's first term, and I've worked Super Bowls and other large scale events and amazing training opportunities I've been to. It's like every one that's come up, I've been like, yeah, I'll volunteer to go do that. And I think all those things, between police experiences and those other events like that, has just given me, the tools to lead at this level. And I know, we're all human, and I know I have a lot to learn still, but I've got great people around me that help keep me on track and keep me informed, and I'm learning more every day, and that's kind of how I feel every day has been since I started here, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. You surround yourself with the best, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no way that you're going to know everything, even at your level. On my last squad, I had a couple of troopers that they wanted to test and try everything. Mm-hmm. And I supported that. I'm like, why not? Why would you not go try and find what is the best fit for you? Because we have people in this agency that there is just a place that is a really, really good fit for them. They lead there, they train there, they help bring up the next generation of leaders in those roles. So yeah, to your point, take those opportunities as they come, and just learn from them. So
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is personality traits, right? But a lot of the people who come to be a state trooper have that kind of adventurous spirit. They're not afraid to go and work by themselves, and so I think a lot of us are drawn to it for that reason, because the different these different opportunities that come up are just a nice change of pace. It's like, oh, we get to go do something fun and different, and at the same time, when you look back later, you're going, wow, that's cool. I was on the field at a Super Bowl, or I was, I met this governor, or I met this president or something. And it's, for being a police officer in Arizona, just kind of amazing that those opportunities come up more frequently than you would think.
Making memories.
Yeah.
Making memories. So, Criminal Investigation Division, if you could, describe what it is that you in the agency do, your division does.
Yeah. So, when the public looks at the agency and they see Highway Patrol,
right,
we are drawing from that same experience of Highway Patrol. We've got all these troopers out there learning how to do criminal investigations of their own, right? They're doing DUI investigations. They're getting people with narcotics, things like that. And as they develop and get more experience, that's the same group of people that we're pulling into Criminal Investigations Division, because our responsibility is all about that next level investigation, right? We're looking at large scale narcotics operations. We're looking at threats to whether it's threats to politicians, terroristic threats, things like that. We are looking at gang activity, shootings, the firearms and narcotics that come along with those activities. And then we're looking at other major crimes. So road rage shootings, uses of force by our agency or another agency, things like that. So we've got our vehicle theft unit. All of these things are going on every day in Arizona. And most of us, thank goodness, never see it in our daily lives, right? Most of the people here never see it. But for those who are affected by these things, they're traumatic. It affects their lives in a huge way. Whether it's a loss of life, whether it's a loss of property, you have, it affects Arizonans, and that's what we're here to try and combat. So everything I just described to you kind of describes our 4 bureaus. We have the Intelligence Bureau, which includes the Counterterrorism Information Center. That is made up mostly of professional staff employees. It's our analysts, our research specialists, and they are working diligently, long hours, trying to gather intelligence on potential threats. And like I said a minute ago, some of those might be a threat toward a politician, which we see more and more these days as the country has become more divided and divisive in a lot of ways than we've seen in the past. So they investigate those type of threats. They look for potential terrorist threats, things like that. And that group works very well with a host of other agencies. They've got city, county, other state and federal agencies that interact with them, either that are assigned there at the ACTIC, or that they communicate with on a regular basis to try and prevent violence from occurring, before it actually happens. Which I love, because we look at police work, and a lot of times is very responsive. The event happens, and then the police are called to the event. And this is one of the ways we try and get ahead of it and prevent it from happening in the first place. We have our gang bureau called Get 'em, and it's pretty self-explanatory. They look into criminal street gangs. We're not talking about groups of friends hanging out, things like that. These are documented criminal gangs, whether they be street gangs, biker gangs, things like that are known to be involved in narcotics, weapons trafficking. And they do amazing work. And they are they're a task force as well. So we have members of that task force from other agencies, and we are in those communities trying to take illegal guns off the street, trying to prevent violence, prevent drug trafficking at that level. And then we have our Drug Enforcement Bureau. They're the ones doing kind of, what you might see in a detective show on TV. They're doing the narcotics investigations and trying to level that up to interrupt the flow of drugs into Arizona as much as possible. Fentanyl has been a huge problem in the last several years. Cocaine is making a big comeback right now. We're seeing more and more of that, and it's always evolving, right? And it's hard to stay on top of it, and our folks are doing a great job of it. They're taking drugs off our, hard drugs off our street in the quantities of thousands of pounds, and it's crazy.
And that's countless lives that may be saved.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example. We had one recently that this is one case, one day, one house, 1,600 pounds of methamphetamine, 200 pounds of fentanyl. And when you do the calculations for what a fatal dose of those two drugs is, that amount taken from one house in one day was 15 million fatal doses. Well, Arizona's got about 7.5 million people in it. So and one day that's enough to kill everybody in this state twice. And it's crazy when you think about it in those terms. So that job is very rewarding for people to know that they're making a difference, but it's tough too, and they're doing a heck of a job of it. And then our fourth bureau is the Investigations Bureau. So they have the Vehicle Theft Task Force, they have Major Crimes District, and they have our SWAT and Bomb Squad district in that bureau. All of those units are doing great work. The vehicle theft unit is, I'm sure the people watching this have seen different press releases you have put out.
Right, like the Operation Escalade.
Yeah, we had Denali. That's just one of many that they've hit these large scale operations that are, again, complex when you talk about VIN switching, taking a stolen vehicle and putting a new VIN on it that looks very, very legitimate. And then there have been shipping those vehicles overseas to buyers who are the victims themselves, right? So you buy a high-priced car from another country and it shows up and you find out it's stolen. It's hard to get your money back, right?
Yeah, right.
And then our Major Crimes District is who's doing a lot of the investigations into road rage shootings, and which are happening way too frequently on our highways. But they've been having some really good success at finding a lot of the suspects and having successful prosecution on a lot of those cases. So, and then a lot of people outside of the agency wouldn't even know that we have maybe a SWAT team and a bomb squad, but our bomb squad is top notch in the state and in the country. They're providing a lot of training to other states. Some of their staff provides training to other allied nations on how to mitigate some of these bomb threats, and they're called upon. It's not rare. They're called upon daily for it could either be a threatened device, it could be a found device. So like something that someone's clearing out an estate of a relative or something, and they find something that looks like a hand grenade, and and it sometimes is, and sometimes it's not. It's a fake one, but either way, they've got to go deal with that.
Right.
And then major event safety too. When they're doing the Phoenix Open, they're doing football, an NFL football game or the Super Bowl. All these major events that happen, they have to go do sweeps there to protect all the spectators as well.
This is one of the interesting things about our agencies. You have detectives that you're responsible for across the entire state. Northern Arizona, Southern Arizona, Eastern, Western, they're all spread out. I was recently on a search warrant with some of your narcotics detectives from down south. where they initiated a street level investigation in a certain city, and it ended up in Tucson at a homeless encampment where we found that they were using that homeless encampment to deal large quantities of drugs, and a whole bunch of money was also seized. And you just never know sometimes where these investigations are going to go. And what you guys are doing is you're taking that investigation to the next level. If a trooper stops a vehicle and they find drugs in that vehicle that may be beyond more than like just a personal use or something like that, that's where you guys will come in and be like, okay, what's the next? Where did he get them? Where is he taking them to? So you guys help take that to the next level to hopefully even get more.
Yeah, and it's, so we are across the state, rural communities. Obviously, we have a lot of resources in the major urbanized areas as well. And it's one thing that we are always cognitive of, and that I think most of the people out there listening know as well, is that this stuff is happening in every community we have, right? The same crime can happen in a $10 million home as happens in a homeless encampment, right? The narcotics are pervasive through all of our communities, and those things lead to violence in all of our communities. And, so we work all of those. The one you described was a great case and we just follow the evidence where it takes us, and yeah, and the higher we can get in these chains, the larger quantities of drugs we can take off, and resources that we can take off the street that are going to, not eventually make it into someone's teenager's hands,
One of the awesome parts about our agency is we are also an assist agency. So your detectives around the state, they're actually going and helping the county and municipal agencies that maybe don't have all the resources that we do with their investigations. And especially the gang guys, I've noticed that if there's a gang involved shooting in a certain municipality, they're oftentimes calling our gang unit to help them with that investigation as well.
Yeah, so you're right. Across the board, whether it's highway patrol, it's criminal investigations, we have resources that either we just have an expertise in it because we do it so much, or we have some resources that a smaller agency doesn't have. And that is what we're here for, is to help them out. And so we will see that with the gang unit in criminal investigations. We do that with major crimes, with almost every unit. With SWAT is a great example. A lot of their work is just going to do these high risk, whether it's a high risk search warrant or hostage rescue, whatever it is, for another agency that is just too small to have their own SWAT team. And, so we have that all throughout the division and throughout the department. And it's one of the reasons our relationships with other agencies are so critical.
You touched on SWAT, because that's where I wanted to kind of go next. And you hit on one of the points was we serve a lot of warrants for other agencies, or we assist with their barricades that they're having. Let's say that we have something happen up in Show Low. Our full-time SWAT teams are here in Phoenix. So we load up all of our equipment and drive up there? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah. So we have our full-time SWAT team is primarily here in Phoenix. We have a couple of members in Tucson, but they all work together. They all go to pretty much the same calls because we just don't have enough people to not use everyone. Depending on the call, there's a different response if you're going to a one-bedroom apartment than if you're going to a 4,000 square foot house or commercial building or something. But yeah, they will get it's exactly what they do. They'll get in their cars and drive, and it might take a little while to get there, but we'll get there. And the local agencies are very understanding of that. They have a good knowledge of what their role is while they're waiting for that assistance to get there to contain the situation and try and prevent escape. And then when the SWAT team gets there, they can start working on trying to bring a peaceful resolution to whatever the scenario is.
So if a trooper wanted to join your division, what do you look for in that person, that trooper?
Well, there's a couple things, but probably the biggest one is, or the biggest couple are work ethic and the desire to learn. Okay, those two things mean so much to me. You could be successful almost anywhere if you have those two things. Now, there's other things you can do to help prepare yourself before you get there, like taking an interview and interrogation school, or starting to do some criminal investigations as a trooper on your own. So, gathering information to further a narcotics case that you found, just going out of your way to find those criminal cases, looking for narcotics trafficking, looking for being willing to take on those calls that, like a road rage shooting or something, getting on that scene, starting to preserve evidence for when the detectives get there. All those things give you an edge, right? Because now you kind of know how the process works. You know what's expected, and I love to see that kind of initiative for someone preparing for that next step.
So I guess one of my next questions is this. And sometimes it can take a little while because of manpower to get into your division. And I've told troopers this, don't give up, right? Like, keep testing, keep applying, and sometimes you just have to wait it out. I know when I started at this agency, we went on a hiring freeze for 7 years after I started. And so for 7 years, I was the bottom guy, always the bottom guy on the squad. And it was just hard to move around at that time. But eventually, with a little patience, you'll get there. If you really want it, you'll get there.
Yeah. So you hit on a really good point. Our staffing and, it's affected law enforcement across the country the last several years. And I think we're recovering from that a little bit right now, which is great. And the people who came through that time as police officers in every agency, man, I give them so much credit. There's been some difficult times. It's been times where it'd be very easy to walk away from this career, and the people that stuck it out, man, they have something to be proud of. That they've helped bridge that gap, and now we're starting to see the community come back to us in terms of employment. In terms of people applying for and wanting to be a police officer or state trooper in our case. And, I think that for our troopers out there that have been waiting a while to get into CI, it's tough. It's been that way before. And I know, when I was a trooper, I had applied for SWAT, I think twice, and I was not even allowed. I given my application to my supervisor, and I was told, no, we don't have the manpower to do that. And that was back, before a lot of this happened. So it's gone through difficult times that way. But like you said, you keep doing the things to prepare yourself, and you keep trying, and you're going to get there. And eventually I did. I was a sergeant when I came to SWAT, and I was still in a remote area at the time. I was not remote, but in a outlying area. I was in Kingman. And eventually I moved. It's one of those things where you become a part-time SWAT member, or you get an opportunity to do a long-term TDY with a detective group or something, and you're like, oh, I love this. And now I'm going to make changes in my life to be able to do that. So I moved to Phoenix for that purpose, so that I could be more involved. And I'm not a big city guy. I never really wanted to live in Phoenix, but the opportunities I've had have been worth it.
Yeah. So on the reverse side of that, I think there's some comfort in knowing that the folks that are in CI, the detectives, our SWAT members, they are the best of the best because they put in the work and the time and had the patience to get to where they are. So they've gone through that themselves. They really wanted it, so they've put in the extra work when they were a trooper or whatnot. Yeah. And now they're there, and so we have our detectives and our SWAT guys are awesome. I've had the opportunity to do some training with our SWAT guys. They're top notch. They train other agencies, and I mean, it's just it's just awesome to know that we have, honestly, the best of the best. And I can say that as biased as I want because I'm part of this agency, but it's the truth.
Right.
It is the truth, and I hear it all the time that you guys just have such professional folks.
You know, I think we have great people in this agency, period. Whether and again, I'm a little biased because this has been my career has been with this agency, but we have had this sense of family and this sense of loyalty from our professional staff to our highway patrol troopers to our detectives the entire time I've worked here, and it blows me away the loyalty that we have had in our employees. And because of that, because we start from that base, we're able to get really great detectives and really great SWAT operators and all that kind of stuff. Because when you start with great people, then all you have to do is give them more, right? You give them, great people want more. They want more education. They want more work. They want to keep taking on new challenges. And that makes it easy as a leader, right? You just start saying, oh, cool, let's give you the training you need. And you just keep elevating, right? So that's a beautiful thing to have in this agency. And it's something I've always been really proud of. And I have seen it span now for, I've been here 26 years and it's not stopping. We still have that. So,
yeah. And I think it's got to be rewarding as a leader, especially at your level, but even guys that maybe you field trained or you supervised at the sergeant level or captain level, to now see them get to where they wanted to be. I know I had the opportunity to be an advanced academy advisor years and years ago. And now I look back and two of those guys are detectives up north. One's a canine handler. One's in SWAT. The other one's a narcotics detective here. And I'm not taking any credit, but it's fun to see them get to where they want to be. Yeah. And maybe have been a little piece of that and, provided a little encouragement to keep that going. I'm sure that's a benefit of being in a leadership position.
Absolutely. I think when you see people that you respect, right, and they might be someone that you work for, it might be someone that works for you, might be a peer, you want to see them be successful, and just like you said, and so you go out of your way to mentor, right? Like you have all these people that want to better themselves, further their career, and we should all have that, and we should all be our own advocate for getting training, for getting opportunities. But you also want to look around you and go, hey, this coworker of mine is amazing. They'd be great. And, so you try and kind of help mentor through, if you you start putting in the time now, go get your degree so that you're more prepared for promotion later, or go seek out this training that you don't have, because that's going to really benefit you when you're trying to take this next step. And, we just kind of all better each other that way. And I know I've been the beneficiary of that. And I wouldn't be here where I'm at today without a bunch of people that kind of helped me along the way of, hey, you should go do this so that you're ready for that next step. And it's really paid off.
Yeah. There are a lot of unsung heroes here at DPS, and that includes the men and women within your division who do tremendous work that doesn't always get noticed. Sometimes it does, but not always. And I think of the things that haven't happened because of the work that your team has done, and it's just greatly appreciated.
I appreciate that, and I know that all of our professional staff and our detectives out there appreciate hearing that, because what they get is they have all this build up to whatever case they're working on, right? And like you said, a lot of that goes unseen or unheard. In the end, there's some really big payoff where we put out a press release that says, hey, we got X number of drugs off the street, or X number of guns, or whatever it is. And then that's the payoff for it, but it's all, no one ever hears of all the work that went into it to get to that point. It might have been months or maybe a year, so we like to try and recognize our employees for that stuff as often as we can, and go visit with them and have conversations kind of like we're having now. And but I know that they appreciate hearing that from from people outside of the division recognizing it. So
Absolutely. There's two things that I wanted to touch on before we closed, and one of them you just mentioned, which is most of these investigations are long-term, months, maybe even into a year or longer, or even longer than that. And I think the public, because of the advance of technology and things like that, and television shows, think that these things can be solved in 30 minutes or an hour, like on a television show. That being said, understand that these investigations do take a lot of time, a lot of follow-up, but we are also trying to keep up with technology. And technology has benefited us a lot over the years. And I'm sure you've seen the evolution, having started, years and years ago, of the technology.
What are you saying? See, I'm older.
I'm just going back to when you started.
Right.
Oh man.
Yeah. What kind of technology do you have on your horse?
Yeah, you don't look a day over 30. So, can we just briefly talk about like some of the newer technology that maybe we're using in our investigative units to help us solve some of these crimes? And
yeah, so I'll give you a great example. We had a homicide in Tempe on the freeway system a while back, and when you start with just a few witness accounts that a shooting took place and we have a homicide involved, but there's, suspect vehicles gone. We have only kind of fleeting, someone saw it just for a brief second and has kind of a little idea of what kind of vehicle it was. You think, man, that's going to be pretty difficult to solve. Sure. And it is. But a lot of the technology that we have these days helps us get there. And, we're always having to balance that against people's right to not, their expectation to not live in a surveillance society, and that depends geographically on where you live, how they feel about that. But in this case, we were able to use some information from license plate readers, and once we use social media investigations. We had tip lines that people were calling in on. We have gunshot detection technology, although in this case that's not part of what we were using for this investigation. But there's all these things that come together, and you start just getting another little piece of the puzzle, right? Like you find, okay, this car was in the area at the time of the shooting, and it's the only one that kind of matches with what witnesses described. And then you start following the breadcrumbs, right? So we, in that case, used we had ammunition casings from fired rounds that were on the scene. We collected those, ran them through NIBIN. That tied those casings to another shooting that Phoenix PD had investigated. So now you kind of have, okay, this person in Phoenix PD's investigation had possession of that gun at the time of that incident. Maybe they're still involved. And now the license plate says, okay, this is a car registered to a relative of that same person. And you just kind of start
connecting the dots.
Yeah, and so it gives you something to keep working on. And eventually we were able to identify the shooter in that case and present charges to the county attorney. So yeah, the technology is always advancing, and it's not quite as simple as just having it because it's expensive.
Yeah.
And but it's, we see it pay off sometimes in a big way, like in this case. So
that's amazing. I guess the final thought of that is we need good witnesses to come forward, right? So if you see something, give us as much as you can. And it is a lot of these cases have been solved by witnesses and witnesses being able to provide good, solid, credible information.
Yeah, absolutely. We get we have the community involved in trying to solve a crime. We are 10 times better at getting it done because if they're invested in the safety of their community, then it gives us way more information. And we get that repeatedly here in Arizona. We have great communities the technology on the civilian side comes into play, right? Like more and more people either have a photo or a video on their phone, or they have a camera, a dash cam in the car,
Yep.
and or even videos from other autonomous vehicles. They have cameras mounted all over them, and so if we can start getting those breadcrumbs to follow and go, hey, okay, now is there video of this car somewhere, and it's or surveillance cameras on a local business, things like that can really help us solve crimes. And hopefully by doing that, we prevent another one from happening, right? Like we take someone who's been violent on multiple occasions with a firearm, or we can take them off the street, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. So,
excellent. Well, Colonel Leonard, thank you. Thank you for stopping in to the 7 Points podcast, talking with Sergeant Lee and myself. We appreciate it. I mean, sharing some valuable nuggets of knowledge and everything like that.
Yep.
And thank you for your service, too, for what you do for the agency and for the people of Arizona.
Well, thank you. And thanks for having me here. It's good talking to you.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Listen, thank you for those who are listening. Thank you for those who are watching. We appreciate you joining us on another edition of the 7 Points podcast.